My sister-in-law Stephanie always believed the internet was a disease. Viruses are everywhere online, she said. It scrambles kids' brains, ruins their immune systems. No more tech in this house. So for the sake of Ethan, her precious only son, she banned everything: smartphones, laptops, internet routers, even the television. The boys' homework had to be printed. Schoolbooks only. No YouTube, no online classes, no Google, no educational software, and certainly no games. Last time, when she ripped the Wi-Fi router from the wall, I tried to reason with her. I told her I majored in computer science. The internet isn't evil, I'd said. It depends how you use it. Didn't matter. Stephanie just doubled down. So this time, now that I'd been reborn, I smiled sweetly and said, "You're right. Ethan's your son. You know what's best." Then I unplugged the router myself, sold the TV, handed her the money from the pawn shop and said, "I support you 100%. Her eyes lit up like she'd won the lottery. She snatched the cash and turned to my brother Ryan, beaming. "You see? That's what it means to have an educated sister-in-law." She bragged to anyone who'd listen about how other kids were getting brainwashed by gaming. She said she knew kids who started scamming their parents, failed out of school, even attempted suicide, all because of computers. Stephanie preached with the fire of a cult leader: Nobelium tech, Nobelium screens, Nobelium digital garbage. Ethan's future depends on it. Everyone in the family, my brother, my parents, just nodded along. I didn't live at home anymore. That was their circus to run. Last time, I tried to be the voice of reason. I tried to tell them that learning required more than just paper books, that the internet wasn't the enemy, that a little screen time wouldn't turn Ethan into a serial killer. But they never heard a word of it. Chapter 2. The Scapegoat Aunt. Back when I was a kid, my own mom didn't let me near the internet either. Half out of fear I'd get addicted to games, half because we couldn't afford it. Whenever classmates asked for my AIM username or Facebook, I had to lie or just go quiet. They'd talk about the latest viral videos, memes, music, shows. I couldn't keep up. Eventually, I had nothing to talk about with them. I became shy, awkward, ashamed. That's when I learned, isolation doesn't breed obedience. It breeds resentment. Stephanie? She was 10 times worse than my mom ever was. Still, in my last life, I argued my case calmly. I helped convince the family to create a schedule. Ethan could go online at set times, use educational software, take breaks, keep a balance. It worked. He thrived. But since it was my idea, I became responsible for Ethan's entire development. They dumped everything on me. I bought the computer, paid for the tutoring, oversaw homework, managed extracurriculars, coordinated early childhood education. People thought I was his mom. Every time he got a bad grade or caught a cold, "It's Madeline's fault," Stephanie would say. She introduced him to the internet. He must have picked up a virus, scrambled his brain. She said it so often, Ethan started believing it. After every website visit, he'd scrub his hands like he'd touched raw sewage. He blamed me for every stumble in his little life. He grew up resenting me. And one day, he pushed me down the stairs. It killed me. Stephanie claimed I slipped. Ryan backed her up. My parents nodded, said it was tragic, an accident. No one was charged. They were all in on it. I devoted my entire life to that family. And that was my reward. In my next life, I knew better. This time, I kept my mouth shut. I let Stephanie run the show. When my parents tried to rope me into helping raise Ethan again, I faked concern. "Mom," I said, "don't you know computer science majors are full of viruses? You really want Ethan to catch something from me?" My mom hesitated. Ethan was her golden grandson. She'd sell her kidneys to keep him healthy. Well, I suppose. I doubled down. I'm a grown adult. His immune system's still weak. He could catch something serious. You really want to risk that? She panicked and backed off. I knew she'd pass the warning to Stephanie immediately. And me? I was free. I took more jobs, padded my savings, kept busy. But of course, that didn't last. One night, I got a call from my brother Ryan. "Hey, Mads," he said with fake cheer. "Want to stay at our place over break? Ethan misses you." How predictable. In my last life, every time I came home from college, they buried me in chores. I cooked, cleaned, babysat. If Ethan scraped a knee, it was my fault. So this time, I tested him. "I actually picked up a remote IT gig this summer," I said. "I'll need to bring my laptop." The line went silent. "Madeline, you know how we do things here. No screens, remember?" "Right," I said flatly. "Which is why I can't come. I'm so addicted to my computer now, Ryan. I can't go an hour without it. You wouldn't want me infecting Ethan's brain, right?" He mumbled something about understanding and hung up. I smiled. Apparently, at a recent family wedding, Stephanie tried to brag about Ethan being gifted, but he couldn't even recite the alphabet, while another kid flawlessly quoted poetry. She was mortified. Turns out that kid had been in early childhood enrichment classes. Stephanie didn't want to pay for those, so she tried to push the job onto me. Again, when I refused, she sent Mom to guilt trip me. "What job is more important than your nephew?" Mom said. "You want to work me to death? You better come home?" That was rich. She knew caring for Ethan was exhausting. She didn't want to get on Stephanie's bad side, so she tried to hand the responsibility to me like a ticking time bomb. But this time, I didn't budge. I kept my job, paid my rent, slept in peace, let Ethan read his flashcards and chant his math drills till his eyes fell out. I wasn't saving them again. Chapter 3, Raising a Robot. To everyone's surprise, Ethan did improve. His test scores went up. He memorized poems. He could solve arithmetic drills faster than most kids his age. Stephanie beamed with pride and took all the credit. She flooded her Facebook feed with videos of Ethan reciting multiplication tables and showing off his spelling lists. Every caption read like a sermon. No phones, no games, no distractions. Look at what children can achieve without internet brain rot. Her friends applauded. Other parents messaged for parenting tips. Stephanie practically levitated from the praise. Ethan's eyes, though? They kept getting duller. By the time I saw him again, he was tall, pale, silent, and wore thick glasses. His body had grown, but his spirit hadn't. The bright, energetic kid I remembered was gone, replaced with something gray and mechanical. He hardly spoke. When he did, the words were stiff and broken. "Hi, Aunt? Madeline? Goo, good." Stephanie still strutted around like a peacock. Look at him, top of his class, covered in awards, never touched a phone a day in his life. She didn't notice how he never smiled anymore. She didn't care that he had no friends. All she saw were report cards and validation. That visit, she sprayed me down with disinfectant the second I walked in the door. "Can't have you bringing digital residue into the house," she said. I joked. "What about your smartphone? You're always posting Ethan on Facebook." "I have to use it," she snapped. "School group chats, parent portals. That's different." "Different? Sure." Mom wanted me to take Ethan to a summer camp. "He should see the world," she said. "Widen his horizons." I knew what that meant. You pay for it. You babysit. You play chauffeur. "No thanks," I said. "I've got books to read. I'm busy." Mom didn't push. Even she knew her role now. The whole family orbited Stephanie, and Stephanie orbited Ethan. I didn't even have a room in the house anymore. I slept on the floor of my parents' bedroom, curled in a corner with my tablet, barely getting a Wi-Fi signal. I had 2 cached episodes of a drama queued up, just enough to make the night bearable. That's when Ethan walked in. He stared at my tablet like it was a spaceship. He had never seen one up close. He crept forward, eyes wide. "You know this show?" I asked. He nodded quickly. "Kids at school talk about it. Really popular." He sat beside me and started talking about the characters, the plot, the memes. He spoke in complete sentences for once, like a real kid. But I shut it down. "Your mom doesn't want you watching," I said, closing the screen. "You should go." His face fell. I gently pushed him toward the door. He didn't leave. He just sat outside the door, curled up on the floor quietly, breathing against the wood. That curiosity, repressed so long, was bubbling over. Stephanie had turned his mind into a pressure cooker. How long could she hold it shut? The real world wasn't so easily sterilized. Not school, not friends, not the future. Genius doesn't grow in isolation. Sometimes what you get instead is a very fragile bomb. Chapter 4. The Puppet Boy. The rest of my trip home confirmed what I'd always suspected. I wasn't family anymore. Not really. Not to them. My brother Ryan, my parents Dawn and Carol, Stephanie, they were a unit. I was just a tool. A fallback. An extra. Dad sat me down one morning over watery coffee and said, "The house, the savings, they'll all go to your brother eventually. You'll get married off. That's how these things work." Mom chimed in. "And when we're older, Ryan and Stephanie will take care of us. You don't need to worry about that." Last time around, I worried plenty. I cooked, cleaned, babysat, sent money every month. I covered their bills, paid for emergencies, bought Ethan's school supplies, even helped with their mortgage. I did everything they asked, and they still called me ungrateful. They said I was selfish. A leech. They said I should be grateful they let me go to college. They said no decent man would ever marry a girl too educated. So this time, I made a plan. When Ethan got into the top high school in our city, Stephanie should have been over the moon. Instead, she flipped. The school used digital projectors, tablets, and interactive learning. All classrooms were multimedia equipped. Stephanie stormed in and demanded it all be removed. She told the principal, "Screens give off radiation. They're full of viruses. They damage young minds." The teachers tried to explain, "Ma'am, computer viruses are software bugs. They don't affect people." She wasn't having it. Eventually, the school caved. They moved Ethan to the back of the classroom and agreed to use chalk on the board, for him alone. Stephanie called it a victory. Ethan called it humiliation. Kids thought he was weird. Teachers thought he was a problem. He didn't speak up. He couldn't see the board clearly. His grades slipped. When his vision got worse, the teacher gently suggested an eye exam. Stephanie refused. "My son doesn't use phones. He doesn't use computers. How could he be nearsighted?" Even after he secretly bought glasses, she found them and exploded. "You think I raised a weakling? You think you're broken?" He dropped to 28th place in the rankings. Stephanie stormed into school, accusing them of sabotage. She smashed a screen during a listening test. "You ruined my son. Give him back his A's." The school had to call security. She became a local legend. Ironically, in my past life, Ethan destroyed a classroom screen too, during a presentation gone wrong. He'd just started learning to code and crashed the system by accident. The screen caught fire. The school billed the family $3,000. My parents and brother couldn't pay. I footed the bill. Back then, I thought I was helping. Now, I knew better. When Stephanie asked for money this time, I beat her to it. I called Ryan and cried poverty first. "Ryan," I sniffled, "I lost my job. I'm behind on my mortgage. I'm desperate. I've applied everywhere, but nobody's hiring. You're the successful one. Can you help your little sister?" I gave him the same act they'd always used on me. It worked. For a minute. Then Mom showed up on my doorstep. Alone. With bags of groceries and a sob story. "Sweetie," she said, collapsing dramatically on my porch, "I'm begging you. Ethan's in trouble. Stephanie can't handle it. We need your help." She wanted me to sell my house, move back in, and babysit full-time. I told her to sue me if she wanted money. "I'm your daughter," I said, "not your nanny. And I don't owe your grandson a damn thing." I put her on a rideshare and sent her home with all the groceries. Later that week, Ryan called. "You didn't have to yell at her," he said. "You didn't have to send her," I replied. He went quiet. Truth is, I had lost my job, but I got a fat severance. I didn't tell anyone. I used the break to sell my house, downsize, study, and transition into public sector work. I found peace. They found drama. Chapter 5, Cracks in the Fantasy. By now, Ethan was in high school. Technically, Stephanie had stopped paying attention, until the school called about his failing grades. Turns out banning screens, group projects, and normal friendships doesn't make you smarter. It just makes you weird. Ethan's GPA tanked. He didn't talk to anyone. His classmates called him USB boy. He had no friends. Ryan and Stephanie blamed the school. "We're transferring him," Ryan told me. "That school's toxic, full of distractions." I shrugged. "Sure. Maybe try a monastery next." They ignored me, of course. They asked Mom to pressure me into helping again. I pretended to be busy. "I'm studying for civil service exams," I said. "Stressful times?" "Your cousin's kid aced that test," Mom replied. "Why can't you be like her?" I didn't bother responding. Meanwhile, Ethan was still a puppet. A pressure-cooked, over-coached, under-socialized puppet. Stephanie enrolled him in tutoring 7 days a week. Piled on homework. Controlled his food, his sleep, his hobbies. To her, the plan was working. To Ethan, it was a life sentence. He was a tall, pale shell of a boy now. His eyes flickered with exhaustion. His shoulders hunched. He didn't laugh. He didn't joke. He didn't live. One night, he snapped. He told Stephanie he wanted to come visit me. Just me. She lost it. "You don't deserve free time. You flunked your midterms." "I just want to get away for a bit," he said. "Well, maybe you should drop out and start panhandling now, huh? With those grades, you'll never make it." They argued for hours. When they finally went looking for him, Ethan was gone. They found him standing at the edge of a bridge. "I just want to see Aunt Madeline," he told the cop. They called me immediately. I didn't rush over. I'd seen this movie before. I used my last vacation day and brought him home. Not because I forgave them, but because I still had a conscience. He slept on my couch for 2 days. When Stephanie came to pick him up, she didn't say thank you, or just, "He's been nothing but trouble lately." Ethan didn't say goodbye, just stared at me as they dragged him away. Months passed. Ethan made it to high school, but barely. The workload crushed him. He couldn't keep up. At home, Stephanie and Ryan decided he was a lost cause, so they started planning for another child. "Maybe we'll get it right this time," Stephanie said. They fought constantly. "You think I wanted this life?" Stephanie snapped during one of their arguments. "You think this was my dream? Well, you sure ruined it for all of us. Maybe if you had made more money. Maybe if you hadn't fried our son's brain with your lunatic rules." I tuned it all out. Their failure was no longer my burden. But I couldn't help noticing the fallout. Ethan started skipping school, staring into space, sleeping all day, talking to no one. And then, one night, while Stephanie and Ryan were sweating under the covers, trying for that second child they thought would fix it all, Ethan jumped from the 8th floor of the hospital parking structure. He died in a coma 2 days later. The doctors said he had depression. Stephanie only asked if she was still young enough to conceive. They lost their only child, their miracle, their scapegoat, and they had no one to blame this time. Not me. Not the internet. Just themselves. Chapter 6. The Last Firewall. After Ethan's death, nothing was the same. Stephanie and Ryan became pariahs in their sleepy hometown. In a city where everyone knew everyone else's laundry line, it didn't take long for the whispers to start. They pushed that boy too hard. He was always so strange, wasn't he? No friends, no phone. What did they expect? Stephanie stopped going outside. Ryan quit his job and started sleeping till noon. The house that used to ring with Ethan's schedule alarms and academic pep talks now echoed with silence. And the occasional screaming match between two broken parents. Their grief was loud. But it was never about Ethan. It was about themselves. The legacy they failed to mold. The second child they'd never have. Because the tests came back. They were too old. Too strained. Too damaged. And Ethan had been their only shot. The doctor said the hospital walls had heard more desperate prayers for Ethan than they'd heard in years. It didn't matter. He still died. As for me, I moved on. With no one left dragging me backward, I passed the civil service exam, landed a solid government job, and bought a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a nearby city. The mortgage was manageable. The work was fulfilling. My evenings were spent drinking coffee, reading the news, watching the shows I wanted. I stayed online. I upgraded my laptop, bought a faster router, and made peace with the World Wide Web. The same one Stephanie once called poison. Turns out, you can't blame your own failures on a fiber optic cable forever. I used the internet to climb out of their mess. And when I told people about my work in computer systems, they didn't frown. They were impressed. One day, I got a call from Stephanie. She blamed me for ruining her relationship with her son. Said Ethan liked me more than her. Said I'd poisoned him against her. I didn't argue. I let her yell into the void. Because the truth was, Ethan never hated her. He just never got to know her as a person. He only knew her as the voice that told him what not to do. What not to touch. What not to become. In the end, he had no identity of his own. No curiosity. No rebellion. No life beyond the shell she'd built around him. He was a puppet. Until he cut his own strings. Now, when I go home, I sleep in hotels. I don't visit the old house. Dad still chain smokes in the same armchair. Mom still pretends not to know what happened. The last time she saw me, she said, "You're doing well, huh? That internet stuff finally worked out." I nodded. She didn't say she was proud. That would be too much. But that's fine. I didn't do it for them. I did it for myself. I don't owe anyone anything anymore, especially not the people who tried to burn down my brain to keep their fantasy alive. Ethan's gone. And with him, the myth of the perfect family. But I'm still here. And this time, I have a firewall. End of story.